Hi, dear listeners, and welcome back to today's show. Today's guest is Jade Stanton, a mental health coach based in the USA who uses personal experience and recovery with borderline personality disorder, depression, and anxiety to help those who are struggling to learn and use coping skills and manage their lives with mastery. Training people in what are known as DBT skills, she serves people in her local community as well as virtually in multiple states and countries, pairing with individuals and treatment professionals to provide an extra level of support and accountability on the recovery journey. So without further ado, welcome, Jade.
Hi, and welcome to the BPD Bravery Show, where we discuss tips, strategies, struggles, triumphs, and success stories related to borderline personality disorder. Here is your host, Faye Green.
And what was your journey like?
My journey was very much started with my own recovery. And I was a sensitive child. I guess that's where it started. I kind of always knew I was a sensitive child, and didn't really show a whole lot of major issues as far as mental health is concerned until I started hitting puberty and getting into my teens, and all of a sudden it was like my life was just blowing up. And puberty can be crazy, and everybody knows what goes on with puberty and how chaotic it can be, but this was kind of to another level, and so I just declined very, very quickly. Went through a lot of depressive episodes. I was self-injuring. I was starting to be a danger to myself, and just could not control my emotions whatsoever. And started going to see therapists and psychiatrists, and was sent to the psych ward a couple of times, and all of that. I mean, it was just very, very chaotic. And I went like that for many years. I lived like that for many years, and it was just kind of my family and people trying to keep me alive through mental health battle. Until I graduated college, and then I finally found someone who kind of guided me down the recovery path. Despite all the people that had tried to help me before, they just were not equipped to deal with what I was dealing with, and they didn't know. They weren't telling me about my illness. They weren't educating me about my illness. They weren't, giving me the tools that I needed or any hope that I could get better. And so when I finally found somebody who did that for me, who said, hey, you can get better, you can have a life. These are the tools that you need. Let's get you started and let's get you some help. And kind of walked me down that path, things started to change. So that's really how I started to where I am today, was just going through the hell of mental illness myself, and then slowly crawling my way out of it.
And so when you were in high school and college, before you got that cure, did you know that you have BP? Wait, I'm not even sure if you have BPD.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with BPD actually early. I was diagnosed at 16, which most people are not. Usually they hold off on a personality disorder diagnosis till you're 18.
Right.
But I was so symptomatic. I don't think they hesitated. They were just like, yeah, this is BPD. But they didn't really tell me too much, and so we didn't really think of it as like my primary diagnosis, I guess you could say, until a few more years later, when I was probably in 19 or so, when it was finally like, okay, what the major problem that I'm having here is borderline personality. It goes beyond depression or anxiety or things like that. So that was kind of when I think came to accept that maybe borderline was the primary diagnosis I have. Yeah.
You mentioned psych wards.
Mm-hmm.
Is it as restrictive as up north? I mean, like, do they also take away your phones? And
yeah. Well, okay. So everyone is a little bit different, actually. Like, I have seen psych wards where people have their phone, like they have everything that they need. And then I've seen psych wards where you are on complete lockdown. I don't think I've ever been to one where you could actually have your phone. I actually think that's more common than it used to be. But yeah, they're pretty restrictive. You have to wear scrubs. You can't have, shoelaces. You can't have a lot of your toiletries. You can't have things like that. They screen everything that you bring in or stuff like that. And usually they're keeping an eye on you 24/7.
Because I know outside of the US, there are a lot of places that having a phone or an iPad or whatever is normal. It's
I know.
acceptable.
I know.
And I'm like,
The first
what?
time I learned that, I was like, what? Like they took my phone for weeks and like I was allowed to have this somewhere else. I know, mind blowing.
And they still, I'm assuming they still have those. When I was there, they still had those phones with, I don't know what it's called, like old fashioned phones, I guess.
Yeah, like a privacy box and stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. No,
So,
ours were pretty. I remember we just had one phone on the ward and it was like anybody could call in and anybody could pick up.
right.
So,
Yeah.
you'd have somebody call in and God knows who's going to answer the phone. I had many people say like, no, she's not here. Like, no, that person doesn't exist. And like, I'm sitting over there waiting for my phone call. So seems a little weird now to think back to it.
Not only that, but like not everyone knows your name, right? So they could answer the phone and think they know everyone, or they just hear something else, right?
They could
So
pretend to be me for all they wanted to do. They could just act like they were me if they wanted to. I mean, it was just a free for all.
I've never thought of that. And then ask, oh gosh.
I had some people who answered and they were like, oh, you're Jade. They would, start getting into a conversation with the person I was calling. It's definitely, I can see now why like having your own personal cell phone would probably be much, much better.
I'm just thinking, what if they ask for a credit card?
I know. Like, oh,
wait, I need to order. They're like, okay, whoever it is, say it's their spouse or whatever, their mom. And they said, oh, but I need to order something. Like, could you give me my credit card?
Yeah.
And then just get this person information. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow.
All things could have, I know. All the things could have gone wrong there.
Because I've been in this psych ward. I think maybe, I don't remember. I think it might be 4 times.
Yeah, I think I'm around there too. Somewhere around there.
Oh gosh, the last time I thought I'm bad. The last time I was in the psych ward, we had a pool. We actually went swimming. Whoever wanted to. That
sounds lovely. Nice. That sounds really, really lovely.
Yeah, actually, it was an outdoor pool. It was beautiful, and it was in the summer. And it was also it was how I ended up, because the first 2 hospitalizations was in a hospital where I actually watched nurses having sex with the patients. Like, it was bad.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It was bad. So at one point I decided, like I should do my research and know if I can choose, like if I am in a mind, like in the right mind to still, if I'm not in the ambulance and they're taking me and I've got no say, but if I can choose where to go, let me at least know what's good, to be able to
So we learned that.
Yeah,
we learned that the hard way over the years with family members and stuff too. It's like we know exact facility to have that open, like that's where we want to go. But yeah, there's some are terrible, and I hate to say it, but a lot of them are, the good ones are rare. I'll just put it that way.
And well, even the good ones. So you got to get lucky. In the bad one, the one that I mentioned before, I got some great help there. I was homeless at one point, and this psychiatrist wouldn't let me. He said, I'm not letting you out because you're going to end up in the streets and you'll end up in the hospital again. So what he did was, I had no access to phone or internet or anything. So he allowed me to come into his office every day for 30 minutes and use the computer to find a place to live. And once I found it, and I got the place. I was able to, make arrangements to leave. And that wasn't like they're known to be a very bad hospital. And now in this quote unquote good hospital with a swimming pool and with a nice garden and basketball, like whatever you could imagine, I had the psychiatrist fall asleep in a 5-minute meeting with me, like when he saw me. So, you got to get
No,
lucky.
I think you're 100% right. I think it really is like ice who you're going to get, because I have had the same experience. You can have a very high end facility or a high end provider who could care less about your case. And then you've got, the social worker who's barely making $20 an hour who will like bend over backwards to help you. You really do just miss sometimes where you go,
Yeah, so true.
unfortunately.
I think that's with everything in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's why I think, as much research as you could possibly do before, like you said, picking which hospital you want to go to or picking which provider you want to work with, the better. If you can find anything out about how they work or what their personality type is like, or, what their expertise is, things like that. I mean, the more research you can do, the better, because more often than not, my clients are going through 5 or 6 therapists, before they find, or a psychiatrist, before they find somebody that they feel like actually cares about their case.
Yeah, and it's good if they're not giving up.
I know. I know it takes a lot of willpower. It takes a lot of like willingness to just keep trying. It's like that's half my job. Is like, okay, let's just try one more time. Let's just try one more time.
Oh, I can't say the same for myself. I'm like, I try 2-3 times and I'm like, oh, I can't, forget it. It doesn't work for me. Let's just drop it.
I know. I'm with you. Well, I feel their pain, because I mean, who wants to do all of that when you're already struggling and you gotta, work so just to find some help. And that's, I try to do a lot of that for people as much as possible. Because when you're already down and out and you're already depressed and you're already overwhelmed, like it takes everything in you to just try one more phone call or, try one more appointment. It's like you're ready to give up.
Yep. All right. So let's go back to you actually getting the help. And is it correct to assume that you did DBT?
Yeah. So I completed DBT. And then I'm kind of like half DBT graduate, half self-taught. So I completed dialectical behavior therapy in a group setting and individual. And it took about 1.5 to 2 years to do that. And I was doing like 6 hours a week, I think, of therapy. And then after that, I was much improved, much improved. And my relationships were better and things like that. But I was still struggling. I still had symptoms on my day to day, going to maintain work, have a job, do things, keep my house together, things like that. So that's where I started to get more into the self-taught side of things. So even after I graduated, that was back before the new DBT handbook came out and all of these expanded skills and all of that stuff. So I was working out of the old book, the old manuals. So I had kind of retaught myself everything, even as I graduated DBT.
Wait, when was this new book, old book? Now I'm what I got.
Yeah, so the original Linehan skills workbook was published in 93, I think, 1993. And that one is the one with like the red cover. It's like a red cover with the black silhouette of a girl on it. And that was that was kind of like the original book. There was another text that she published with that for academia and things like that. So that was my original kind of intro to the DBT skills, but it didn't have all of the skills or like all of the expanded skills that the one that they have out now has. So that was published in 2015, if I have that correct. So there was like a 12-year gap or something in there between editions.
So I'm missing a lot of information then, huh?
You might be. And I mean, and even since the 2015 one was published, they've come out with new ones. Like, I think I'm even behind. I think they've come out with 1 or 2 skills that I'm not even, up to date on. So they're renewing these things constantly and kind of updating it constantly. Yeah. So you might want to grab that 2015 book, because it's got some really good stuff in there.
All I have is I have a binder, which I guess so. I did DBT one-on-one with a therapist
Mhm.
12, 13 years ago or something. And she would just print out papers.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
put
So
it in a
that's what
binder.
that's what ours did too. And then I ended up buying the book. And then I figured, well, I took the book and I photocopied all of the pages. I mean, I had like copies of handouts and worksheets. But yeah, I think personally I prefer the notebook. I prefer like kind of print it out and in a notebook. I think that's to organize it.
Damn, so you were prepared.
Oh, it was well, yeah, it was I just kept trying to find like tool after tool and tweak it and just find the kind of the easiest way to apply all of these skills for myself because there were so many and they were kind of overwhelming, you know. And so I was trying to find kind of a system for myself where I could revisit the skills, where I could kind of implement the skills on a daily basis. So I was kind of just creating my own systems, I think.
Oh, that is pretty cool. I mean, that's the way to do it because then you know what works for you.
Yes, and I see the people that tend to do that too, like the people who are in DBT and they're trying out different things and trying to find what systems work for them. Those are the ones that I see going the farthest too. It is the ones that, you know, they don't just take the first thing that they're given, you know, the first skill that they're given. They keep trying until they figure out just how it clicks for them, you know, just the perfect system for them. And so yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people kind of really thrive that way like just some people kind of putting everything together in a binder the way that they want it. They've taken that and just run with it.
Damn. Okay, so you learned DBT, right?
Mhm.
And did you go back right into coaching after that, or?
No, no, there was a big gap. So I think, excuse me, I think, let's see, I finished DBT in probably 2012-ish. And then I didn't start coaching until about 2017. So there was a big 5-year gap in there where I was, like I said, I was having a really hard time. I was working at different places. I still couldn't really hold down a job well. I was struggling with my relationship still. I was much improved, you know, again from the therapy. Um, but like daily living and having goals in my life and figuring out what I wanted to do and all of that stuff. That just wasn't there for me yet. So once I graduated DBT, I kind of spent that 5 years doing a couple of things. I was self teaching myself the DBT, but I was also doing a lot of BPD support and out active in the BPD community. I was running a lot of online support groups, just talking to people, reading books, reading textbooks, doing research, reading clinical studies. I mean, like everything I could get my hands on. I was just soaking it all in. I'm not really even sure why. I guess because I was just going to use it one day for my future. But at the time, I think I just wanted to know as much as I possibly could about what was going on with me and
Do you have a favorite book?
a favorite like BPD.
Anything related to BPD or mental health?
Oh, what a good question. Okay, Linehan's hand with the handouts. I would have to say by far that would be my favorite book. Um, just because it's been so useful to me. Um, but you know, I think maybe Borderline Demystified was one of my favorite books. Probably because it was one of the first books that I read that was not kind of demoning the person with BPD. It wasn't making the person with BPD look like they were a huge problem. It was framing the person with BPD as someone who needs help and care and appropriate treatment. And so I think that's probably my first book, I guess, is BPD Demystified.
I gotta check it out. Have you
Yeah, it's a
read?
good one.
Right now, I'm reading Borderline. Oh, no, no, no. Loving Someone with Borderline. Yeah.
Are you okay? So that one I've only skimmed through. I've read like, you know, excerpts from that. My highly recommended. I'm always sending that book out to other people. My family has read it. Very, very good book.
They enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if in but they found it helpful. I think it definitely taught them some things that they didn't realize that they were doing or didn't realize what was happening. So it kind of helped them interact with a person with BPD much, much better.
I thought I might as well read it so I could understand myself better. I have no idea what made me buy it, but I bought it. So
Yeah,
right,
I think so
I'm
far.
reading that. It's good. It's really good. It's just that it's really meant for some, for others, not for me.
For
So
the loved
sometimes I'm
ones.
like
Yeah.
BPD, which I think is super important because years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I was diagnosed 5 years ago. Um, my friends asked me, they wanted to read something like this, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know what I told them I haven't found anything, but they were asking for it. So if there is a book out there that helps others, that's important.
I think it's so important. And I think it's awesome that your friends were asking. I mean, that's a sign of a good friend, who's like, hey, how can I know more so I can help you? And there didn't used to be anything out there really. And what was out there wasn't super BPD friendly. That's how I kind of refer to it. They weren't necessarily providing like support and encouragement to a loved one um, of someone with BPD. Now there's, a couple more books starting to come out that are more supportive because I think people are seeing there are so many different relationship dynamics with BPD. There's parents and children, there's husbands and wives. There's these relationships where you can't just demonize the person. You can't just think, oh, well, this is a bad person and I should leave, which is what some of the old literature, the old books would kind of tell you to do. You can't do that when it's your child, or it's, the mother of your children, and you're trying to work out your marriage and things like that. It's more complicated. And so now that they're starting to publish these books that are, trying to give people tools to maintain a relationship with someone with BPD rather than just end it, I think is so helpful because there are a lot of people out there with relationships with people with BPD that are looking to maintain and improve those relationships. They're not looking to end it. And when they have the tools, they can improve those relationships and the relationships can turn around. So I'm encouraged to see, these books being published now more and more. There's still not a lot, but there's more than there used to be.
Yeah, I'm better. Yeah, not as stigmatized. What would you
Right.
say? Because talking about relationships, you're in a relationship now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Married going on 5 years. Yep.
Nice. Congrats. That is
Thank
awesome.
you.
What is a key to success for someone with BPD in a relationship? I
Being
haven't
in
found that out
recovery.
yet.
Yeah, being in recovery nonstop is number one. You have to be in recovery. If you have BPD and you're not in recovery, I would dare to say that you are going to have serious problems. Not that relationships problems anyways. But if you need tools, and I think, my biggest thing when it comes to BPD relationships is, does everybody have tools? It's not just the person with BPD who needs the tools. It's everybody in the relationship needs tools. Everybody needs to be kind of working on tools. At least needs to be the type of person who's willing to kind of be patient with you and work with you as you gather some tools, so I think that's the biggest thing is just being willing to learn and willing to figure out, I think a big part of the BPD relationships is figuring out how to communicate with your partner. I think the communication skills are probably some of the biggest ones. As far as which tools do you need for a relationship like that, communication is big.
And the person with BPD should should teach the one without BPD, or how does the partner say get?
Yeah. So, well, ideally, so let's say like perfect scenario. In my world, my perfect dream scenario is like everybody's got their own individual therapist, and then you've got a couples therapist and all of that. That's not realistic for most people. I think partners get the tools a couple of ways. One of the first place that I typically send a partner of someone with BPD is to the NEA BPD website, National Education Alliance. on
Love
BPD
that.
because love it. They do the Family Connections program. It's free. You can learn tools that way. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as your question, does the person with BPD teach the tools to the loved one? I think actually yes. And so what I tell people a lot is you have to model the behavior that you want to see. So let's say I have BPD and my partner is not validating me. Well, I have to validate my partner, and then my partner might start to see what validation looks like and might start to model that, to follow up that behavior or that behavior. So yeah, I think we do teach each other, I think for sure. But is it the person with BPD's responsibility to teach the partner? No, I don't think you can't expect somebody who's, just learning the tools and just in their own focusing on their own recovery. You can't expect them to be trying to manage their loved one's recovery too. So yeah, I think the partner needs their own support system. I think they need to be reading their own books. I think they need to be studying the DBT skills on their own. And then having both people kind of come together and practice those tools and practice those skills together.
Yeah, I had an interview with actually why am I not saying her name? Sky Fitzpatrick. She's located in Canada. She's a researcher. And she researches this, how to do a therapy. She's creating a therapy for both people with BPD and their spouses, and also people with BPD and their siblings.
Awesome.
I'm a right. I think the spouse phase has already it's already it's being implemented, and it's part DBT and part DBT and maybe part CBT,
Uh-huh.
and they do it together and they learn
Awesome.
skills together. I thought it was phenomenal. And now she's doing the siblings, or the siblings is already established. She's doing research for the other
Right.
project, whichever it is. I don't know. I've posted the link and I'm like, people should sign up because
That
this
is
isn't needed.
awesome. Awesome. So needed. And I love that they're going the sibling route too, because what I see a lot too is like, well, okay, so there's so many people with BPD that are coming out of, not everybody, but there are a lot of people that are coming out of like family households where there is abuse or there's trauma or there's some kind of dysfunction. And so it's not just the person with BPD. A lot of times it's their siblings that have gone through some of the same things too. And so all of them being together, I think that is incredible. I just think that is absolutely, and I haven't heard of that. I have not seen anybody doing a program for siblings, as far as like BPD and kind of, bringing families together, family healing and stuff like that. I think that's incredible.
I know. I thought
That's
so
exciting.
too. I
That is
thought
so
so too.
exciting. Oh,
I'll
my
send you
heart
her
is like,
information.
oh.
I'll send you the web. I can send you a link to the website so you could like follow up and see what they're doing. But it's pretty cool. It's they're located in Canada, but the program is also for people in the US. I think it's US and Canada. But as
Please
far as
send that my
US,
way.
I will. But as far as the US, I know the NEA. I didn't know about it until my sister actually found it, and she's like, "Oh, I'm doing this thing for family members. I'm the one that I'm located in BPD. What? I have BPD.
I'm the one located in the BPD area. I like that.
Oh gosh, could you show me the way out?
I
I
think
do
you're
not
right.
like living here. I do not like living here. I'd like to move. Oh gosh, my brain.
That
Um,
is funny. I might have to use that. Like, I'm located in the BPD. I'd like to find my way out, please.
so my sister calls me all excited that she's doing this. She's taking this. I don't know what they call it for the families with
Family
BPD.
connections. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was officially diagnosed, but I'm the oldest of 12. And a lot of my
Oh.
siblings have the traits. So they don't
Mhm.
have, say, 5 of the 9, but they have 4 of the 9. That very sensitive, being very sensitive. It's just, it's genetic.
Yep.
So she took it. That's when I found out about it. And I'm like, should I pretend I'm a family member too? Because I could use the help.
Right? Well,
Oh
I took
gosh.
it and because I have BPD too, but I also have a family member who has BPD. So I took it myself for my family member who has BPD. And yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you tools. I'm not sure I would recommend it though for everybody with BPD. I think we need our own like space because people, in the family groups, they they share like their frustrations, like the things that they struggle with. And
Mm.
it's I think sometimes like for me being in the group, which I loved and I got a lot of great tools out of it. I went in expecting that like, hey, it was probably going to be hard to hear those things about people with BPD, knowing that I have BPD too. So it's a weird dynamic, when you've got it and you've got loved ones with it too, and you're all trying to kind of figure out what to do or how to help each other. But the more people, the better. I mean, to have your siblings looking for tools, that I think that's what increases the chances that everybody's going to start everybody's going to start to heal, to get better,
Yeah, that's if the siblings have a there are several siblings that don't even talk to me.
Yeah.
I escaped. I grew up in a cult, and I escaped when they wanted to do the arranged. They were trying to force me into arranged marriage. I
Mm-hmm.
ran away, and so some of my siblings don't speak to me because I'm not like them,
Right.
quote
Yeah.
unquote, religious
Yeah.
reasons.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. So estrangement. It's
yeah.
rough.
Anyways, it is, but you know what? At one point, I was like, it's their loss. Not that I'm so special,
Well,
but
right. Right. No, I mean, I think that's a big part of recovery is like, having those emotional boundaries because there's a lot of estrangement in BPD families. There's a lot, and just I'll use the word dysfunctional family in general, because it's not just BPD families, it's like all kinds of families, um, where there's dysfunction and stuff in it. There are boundaries you have to have with certain family members where you just you have to kind of you have to let it go, you can't force the person to change or things like that. And it's very hard. I think it's hard to work those dynamics when there's mental health. And I think most who have any kind of mental health issues, struggle with deciding, what do we do with these friendships and people not
right.
talking to each other and estrangement and conflict. And, it's rough. It's hard. Yep. Sometimes you got to do what's best for you.
So now you're a coach, right? A DBT coach. Now, what is it? Let's discuss one tool. I'm going to put you on the
What
spot now. I'm just
It's okay.
sorry. Go ahead. I'm just wondering what DBT skills are new that I don't know about that are very helpful.
Well, okay. Let me think back to our original 93 manual, which I haven't looked at in a while. Um, Kind of expands on, so let's say like mindfulness, for example, it kind of expands on some of the mindfulness skills where it talks being and doing mind. Um, And so it's trying to teach you the skills to, instead of constantly being task focused or focused on demands or obligations or constantly work, 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 I have to do more, I have to try harder, um, versus the other extreme where you're just kind of being and existing, and not trying to force yourself to do anything, not trying to be forward moving. So that's one of those dialectics that it starts to teach you about, is kind of finding the balance between always doing, 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 and also just taking time to just be in your life, be in the moment and experience the moment. And so that's one of the newer things that's been added. They added a loving kindness skill I don't think was in the original manual, which is part of mindfulness. And helps you kind of like bring in compassion for yourself and others, which I think is kind of cool. I think it really kind of should be under emotion regulation, but it's in the mindfulness skill. They also so they have the Dear Man Given Fast, but they also expanded. I'm not sure if they had the dime game in the old manual. I think they might have. I'm not positive.
Wait, say that again. The what?
The dime game. Do you remember if they had
I
that in the
don't.
93 manual?
I
Not
don't think so
sure.
because I don't remember it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did,
Yeah.
but the dime game is really, that one's been great, which is a skill to kind of help you figure out when and how to ask for something or to say no to something. So if you struggle to know, like, is it okay to ask for this, or should I hint at this, or should I go in and like demand it? Do I need to go and like tell this person what I want from them, or trying to figure out those subtle nuances in conversation. That skill has been really helpful for communication. They've expanded kind of how they identify some of the emotions in the emotion regulation section. There's some good pages there on different emotions and different body sensations and different action urges you get with feelings and things like that. So yeah, there's a couple extra things in there that I think are very, very useful. And I think there's even a couple more since 2015 that I'm not familiar with that they've added on.
Damn, they're going fast.
I
That's good.
know. It really is developing very quickly.
I've learned, I'm trying to remember when it was, I think 2 or 3 days ago. I had a call with someone in Long Island. They're now teaching DBT in schools
Yes.
as a class. Not a,
Yep.
you this person, whoever, like the kid is not going to a therapist in school. They're teaching it to the entire class. They're teaching mindfulness and emotion regulation.
Yep.
And I'm like, yes.
I know. For years, people have been like, I wish they taught this in schools. I wish they taught this in schools. They need to teach this to kids. It's been like, you hear people saying that all the time. And now finally it's starting to happen. And it's so exciting. It is really, I watched a video actually of, I think they were kindergarteners, and they were doing some of the mindfulness DBT skills. And I mean, you see a room full of kindergartners calm and relaxed, and you just think like, what in the world is going on here? But it's incredible. It's incredible to see these kids like learn how to calm themselves down, and they're so interested, engaged, and like they're learning how to control their own bodies and their own breathing. I mean, I was just blown away. So I am super, super excited. I think it's going to be really helpful. Kids need tools more than anybody these days.
And the thing is that, like, hopefully, if they're struggling, I mean, every person struggles, but like if they have BPD or CPTSD or whatever when they're younger, right? Hopefully they don't have PTSD, but if it happens, right, and they have some traumatic event where they have BPD and they start working on it when they're so much younger, they say that the prognosis of, is a lot better.
I know.
So I'm like, that's good.
The earlier, the better. I know. I agree. And so many of them, I think they're not learning the tools at home. I see a lot of people, they're not learning, a lot of kids, they're not learning many tools at home. Their parents don't have the tools, so they can find the tools. And when they teach them at school, the kids can come and share those tools too. And it starts to have this ripple effect. I think it's awesome. I think we need more and more and more of it. I wish it was already in every school everywhere, personally.
Damn. So how do they do that? The teachers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I'm not sure how the module, I believe. So from what I've heard, there are some where they're training the teachers in the skills, and then the teachers are providing those skills to the kids. And then there are other ones where they're kind of having, I believe I saw in one school, they had a practitioner coming in and just doing some work with the class, and then they would bounce from class to class. So the teacher wasn't teaching it. It was, the practitioner would come in, teach some tools to the kids, and with the teacher watching on, and then kind of go around that way. I'm assuming eventually to kind of hand that off to the teachers so that the practitioner doesn't need to go into the classrooms anymore. So yeah, I think they're kind of leaning more towards equipping the teachers with it. I don't know how that's going to go with teachers having so much on their plate. But who knows? I mean, maybe it'll help the teachers manage the stuff on their plate too,
And it might help them in their personal life.
Right. I mean, it's all around, fits everybody. So
yeah, because sometimes I think, with BPD and relationships, and I'm like, oh, damn, people with BPD, we do struggle a lot with relationships. But then I look at a lot of my friends and I'm like, they're also struggling with their relationships.
They struggle
We're not
with
the
their
only one.
relationships to know. And I tell people this a lot, that I'm personally, this is just kind of like my worldview, I guess. Um, excuse the rant. I think that that across the board, we've just kind of relationship skills. I think we've lost the art of maintaining and managing relationships in a big way, and we don't know how to keep our our co-working relationships. I mean, even, you hear in business settings, they're like, I don't know how to get my coworkers to get along. I don't know how to, manage my relationships with my coworkers, let alone my relationships with my kids, my teenagers. I think we're just kind of at a loss as a society as a whole. We're just lacking a lot of relationship skills, and we need to kind of get back to some of them.
Why do you think that is? Or you have
I
no
think
idea?
I think technology has something to do with it, right? So if you look at like cultures with less technology, or they're less technology focused, I think they're more of their family dynamics or their relationship dynamics are intact. I think the more like face to face time you're spending connecting with people, the better. So I think maybe technology probably has something to do with it, in my opinion. The rise in technology, and I think also kind of the rise in individualism as well. We're not so communal. We don't. We're not
True.
so. We don't do all our laundry at the watering hole together anymore. We're doing it alone in our apartments. So it's like we're more isolated. I think we're more focused on us independently more than community driven. And I think that that's kind of led to a breakdown in some of our relationships too.
That's like I was telling you earlier, before we started, that I was in Greece and I'd love to live there. And I did go to touristy places too. I did a tourist thing too, but I was there for 2 months. And when I booked it, I was looking for something away from the busy, busy hustle bustle, right?
Right.
And so I found an Airbnb in this lovely village. It has more sheep and goats than people. It has 75 houses. Not all houses have families in them, because those houses were built maybe 200 years ago, maybe more. And I fell in love with that village. I even have a house that I want to live in.
Already picked it out and everything.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And the reason for it is, and I'm like, wow, there was a big party in that village. And I mean, so there's a lot of small villages, and every summer each village has a big party. They throw a big party, so there are a lot of parties. It felt like, in the morning I'd wake up and walk Fluffy, my dog, and it was 7:30 a.m. and everyone's so excited to be awake, and everyone's like saying kalimera, which means good morning, and
Yeah.
like they mean it. They
Yeah.
really mean it. It's not like me and my neighbor morning, like
Like, oh, please don't talk to me.
yeah, they mean it, and they're so excited to be alive. It's very interesting, but also they get together 5 p.m. You see people on each, like on this one's in this one's garden, or that one's garden, in this one's house, and they get together, and they're they're so they're always spending time together with each other, right? And I think that's what I loved about it, and I think that's what I fell in love with. Also, the Wi-Fi isn't that great there, so if you're not in your house, you got issues with your phone, so you're disconnected, which is also great. But so many of them still have, though, the flip phones from 200 years ago or whenever. You know what I'm saying? And they're fine with it. They're like, they know that they could get this latest, I don't know, this is a 13 Pro Max, Max Pro, whatever. So maybe there's a 14, I don't even know. But they know they could get it. It's not like
Right.
they don't know about it. They're like, what do I need it for? And
What?
I think,
Right.
but they have community, right? That's what they have. That So I came back, and I was not very happy coming back
Yeah.
here, of course. And also, I live in a state. I live in North Carolina now. I moved down here knowing absolutely no one, and I made friends, but it's not like the people there. I don't know. It's
Hmm.
it's real. And I was telling a friend of mine, and he's like, "Well, that's the American way. Individual. What were you saying? Individualism?
Yeah, individualism. Yeah, we're very individualistic, and
Yeah,
and that's more like a Western. I mean, it's like a Western ideal. And look, I think it has its benefits. I mean, I think it's not bad to think of me as like, okay, I'm, autonomous, and I, you know, choose my own fate, so to speak, and I'm in charge of myself and things like that. But I think we've kind of gone to the extreme of forgetting that, like, hey, it's not just about like me and what I want and what I want to do and all of these things. It's we all exist together. And so if I have relationship skills, for example, but nobody else does, we're all going to struggle. You know, we all need these tools. We all need these skills. We all need to come together. And I think we've just kind of gotten away from that, I think, in the Western culture, Western society a lot.
Yeah. So we all got to work on our relationships.
We do. We all need to work on our relationships. We do. Yes, I agree.
We really do. I sometimes think that maybe before the internet, first of all, we did have more. I love face-to-face interactions. My friends know, they're like, I hate WhatsApp. I'm like, and I use it all the time. Don't get me wrong, but like, I'm like, oh, I want to see you, you know?
See, I'm the opposite. I am like 100% hermit. I love my alone time, but I also love people, and like I know from studying myself that like alone time is great, but if I have too much of it, I start living in my head too much and I start, forgetting what life is really about, I start kind of getting very inwardly focused, and I don't think it tends to be good for me. So, I think being around people is necessary. I think it's necessary for us.
I wonder what's going to happen with this metaverse, right? The point is to like be able to live with a headphone, with the goggles or glasses on, and live what? So you're gonna live in someone's basement on
I'm not going there. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know what draws people to that. I have no idea. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
because I saw a meme recently, and it was like people like literally being homeless, like sitting on the streets, but having those goggles on. So they're quote unquote experiencing life. And like, what's the need?
Are
They
they
don't see
though?
the,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That is a fear of mine. I like fear the day where like all of our teenagers are just living with goggles on and not actually interacting face to face. That just terrifies me. The whole idea.
I'm afraid that it's closer than we think it is.
I
Because
think you're right.
yeah, I've listened to what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg, talking about like how far in the process they are in making this happen, and I'm like, can you slow this down a little bit? This is not good. I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, I get some pushback, quite honestly. I think people are what I think, I am observing now is I feel like people are starting to shift. I feel like people are starting to realize, at least more people than were before, are starting to realize like, hey, the way that we're doing things here, like disconnecting from reality, and living in the virtual world is not doing a lot of us too many favors. I really do think people are starting to wake up and like, I think we need to start switching this up. And even like a lot of my young clients coming and saying, you know what, I'm realizing the more I scroll on social media, like the worse I feel,
Oh yeah.
and they don't realize, they don't, like a shock, when they figure out like this doesn't make me feel good. But starting to realize like, hey, this is starting to get out of hand, so, and I hope, I mean, that's my hope, is that people kind of start speak up more, and we need more of a balance in our lives. We don't need to be disconnecting from reality more. I think we need to get into reality more, into our lives more.
100%. Every time I see a friend saying that they're, shutting down their social media, and it lasts, I'm talking about it 2, 3 years. They've closed down their accounts and that's it. And I'm like, good for you. Way to go.
Right? If I didn't run a business online, I would hit that button and never look back. And I mean, even running a business online, I mean, people have to be really careful. You have to, you can't overdo it. I have strict rules about how much time I can spend online and things like that, because, mental health before you know it.
Yep. Damn. This internet.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It
I mean,
is.
look, it's not all bad. It goes to, right. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it without the internet. I wouldn't be able to hook
For
people
sure.
up with BPD sources without the internet. So that's why I say balance. I think balance is key. You can use the internet, just don't let the internet use you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I
it
say
takes
it
over.
when people are upset at me for not like answering the phone, and I'm like, I don't know, I could just go a day with putting my phone away and not looking at it.
Yeah, you should be
Yeah.
allowed to do
How do you,
that.
right? They're like, what do you mean you didn't take? I've got one neighbor. He gets so upset when I don't take his calls. So upset, and I'm like, I am in control of my phone. It's not my phone in control of me.
Right, exactly. And I mean, this is why sometimes I miss these when like your phone did to the wall. Because it's like if you weren't home, you weren't gonna phone and just had to wait. You had to leave a message and you had to wait, and that's just sorry, that's just how it is. And with our cell phones, you're expected to be there picking up the phone all the time, all the time, all the time. I just don't think that's sustainable for most people. I think we slow down, put the internet away, and go live your life.
Yeah, live your life. You're right. Get outside a little bit.
Yep.
Surround yourself with some nature. I'm a very big advocate for a person being in nature. I think that we need it for our mental health. Just like we
I
need
agree.
water, right? At least there's someone
I
agreeing with
agree.
me.
Wholeheartedly. I'm like a barefoot girl. I like to go outside, get my feet. It does for your soul. It really does. It just lifts you up. I think it stimulates your brain. We don't do enough.
You're so right. No, you're very right. Thank you so much for doing this. I
Thank
have one
you.
question. Are you an interior decorator? I'm looking at this thing behind. This is so pretty, and it matches perfectly with your hair, the background, and your hair, and this painting behind. And I'm like, she must
Thank
be an
you.
interior, some kind of designer.
Okay, trial and error. It was clients will tell you they have seen this painting change like every month. They saw it change and change and change. Like I could not get it to look right. I think I've settled on something. No, I'm not an interior decorator, but I'm great at home goods.
It's so pretty. I'm like, this is just the perfect. I love
I
the
think
gold because
thank you.
before she
That
did
makes me feel
DBT.
so good. I worked hard on this, so that makes me feel really good. Thank you.
Oh, it's pretty. And so you're a DBT coach, not an interior decorator.
No, but
Or you could be
if I had a second job, that's probably what I would go for.
really?
I would love to do that. That sounds like such a fun job.
It does, doesn't it?
You
Ah,
basically get to go shopping, I mean, for other people. I think that sounds great.
yeah. Send over the wallet and I'll make your house look pretty.
Be back in a few hours.
Yeah, that does sound like fun. I love
It
going to those
does.
stores.
Me too. Don't catch me in a pre-barn. You'll get me out of there. Love it.
I was recently because I was getting like stuff for my above the fireplace just for the fall like decoration. And I went to a store and my entire I had a cart full of stuff. And then I started looking at the tags and I'm like, okay, this goes back. And this goes back. I left with
I've done
like
that too.
I think I left with like 3 things out of like 20 or something.
That's smart shopping. Good for you. No, it's exciting to decorate for the fall now. That's like my favorite time. Everybody's fall decorations and their Halloween decorations going.
And my dog is doing some background music right now. Gosh.
That's no
I don't know
problem.
if
I'm
she's
surprised my cats haven't spoken up. I've got some office cats myself. I like their presence
Aw.
known. Our little fur babies.
All right. He's not gonna stop.
He's saying it's time to go.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's BPD Bravery Show. If you've enjoyed it, then like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to tune into our show every Monday and Friday. And remember, you are so much more than your BPD.